r/TooAfraidToAsk. John 16:30 says, "What was something small you went to the doctor for that turned out to be very significant?" I had went to the doctor for stomach pains. After the routine exam of listening to heart and lungs, she has me lay down and pushed in around my abdomen asking if that hurt. It didn't, so she said, "Okay, stand and remove your pants." I said, "It's not hurting there." She said, "We have to check for a hernia." So I dropped my pants and boxers. She was sitting eye level with my groin and asked, "What is that?" I laughed and said, "If you don't know, I need to find a different doctor." She paused for a moment, then looking at my penis she smiled and said, "I know what that is. I was referring to the spot on your thigh." Turned out I had Lyme disease from a tick bite on my thigh. And yes, she still checked for the hernia. Jamask Boyd says, "When I was 8, I had the world's worst headache that just never went away. Turns out, I had a massive brain tumor that was supposed to kill me. As in, the neurosurgeon who performed surgery on me to take the majority of it out told my parents that the portion that he had to leave in there would grow back, and he also said that I had a 0% chance of living to see 13. Well, the tiny portion that he had to leave in there never grew back and actually shriveled into almost nothingness. I still have MRIs twice per year to monitor the portion of the tumor that is still in there to make sure that it never does actually grow back." Corncob 666 says, "That's pretty wild. Glad you made it past his estimation." Rocktopod says, "Technically they never confirmed that they are older than 13. Flostic J says, "Spot of blood in my urine. Cancer." B Monster 666 says, "Yes, men, don't frick around if you notice a little bit of blood in your urine. Guy I work with ignored it. Hoped it would just go away on its own. He had prostate cancer that metastasized to his bones. Would up claiming him." Chunkin Guinea Pig says, "That's so sad." Viking says, "I had a follow-up knee surgery to clean up the joint after having the patella put back together the previous year. Right before going in, the anesthesiologist was doing a quick evaluation and talking to me. He was checking my neck area and casually mentioned a small bump on the thyroid gland that is probably nothing but worth having checked. A month or so after the knee surgery, I went to my primary doctor and he felt the bump too. He said, "It's probably nothing, but I'll refer you to an endocrinologist to double check." The endocrinologist did a needle biopsy. A few days later, I got the call that it was thyroid cancer and would require surgery and radiation treatment. That was 22 years ago now, and I may not have made it very long if that anesthesiologist hadn't done such a thorough pre-op checkout. I wish I knew his name so I could thank him." TooAfraid says, "If those medical records still exist, you can get their name." The Babix says, "My BF and I were laying in bed and he was holding his phone up and we were looking at it. He accidentally dropped it on my head and when I got up I was kinda dizzy. Went to work and got life-aided, so I went to urgent care. I thought I had a concussion from the phone. They said that's not possible from only an arm's length away and it wasn't a concussion. So I go home and the next day I'm still feeling weird, but my eye is also doing this weird thing where it's not focusing with the other eye. So I go to the doctor again and they affirm it's not a concussion. They order a CT scan and refer me to the eye doctor. I go to the eye doctor and they were like, "We're changing your CT scan for an MRI, we think it could be milliseconds." So the MRI comes back and I get a call from the eye doctor telling me to go to the and be diagnosed for milliseconds. So I end up staying in the hospital 5 days and have milliseconds. The phone wasn't even related. It was a coincidence." r/TooAfraidToAsk. 10 Thing No Way says, Guys, what is the most desperate thing you have used for lube for me time? 1989 Toy4WD says. I go dry. I rarely use lube for jerking it. Sidakrik employee says. Non-circumcised guys don't need lube for masturbation, so I never had this problem. Formertha Santhat says. Dry guy gang, salute. Blackham says. When I was a teen I used hand soap once, but like that cheap soft soap stuff. Burned like hell after 2 minutes. Gali Rudiani says. Toothpaste. It actually gave a nice minty zest to the experience. Condition Reticle 153 says. I don't ever really use lube, but in the past I used to use my saliva a fair bit, because it was so convenient. And one time for fun I, ed a yogurt carton, pulled out stroked with some of the yogurt, ed it again, and finished deep inside the carton. Glenn Spot says. Okra slime. One horny afternoon there's some leftover boiled okra on the table, so I grabbed one of those and squeezed the slime out like you would to a tube of lube. Oh frick, that was good. Then I also added the okra seeds for fun texture. Fuck, but don't take my word for it. Try it to believe. Be careful not to have okra seeds go in your dick hole, or you'll end up in the ER. Smalapan Dixonergy says. How to recognize an American without any doubt. People with an intact foreskin don't need any lube. This mocking horse says. I met a guy at a party once who told this story about how he has only ever had one opportunity to try anal, and it was during a one-night stand. However, the girl insisted they needed lube to do it, but he didn't have any, so he went downstairs to find something from the kitchen, and settled on a tub of margarine. He scooped out a big lump onto his fingers, and smeared it all over his dick, then ran back upstairs. r/TooAfraidToAsk. Good Mood Curiosity says. I read that the devil's part in The Devil went down to Georgia when Daniels played live and milked it, damaged the violin strings, so he had to replace the violin mid-concert. Is this true? Title. Like an idiot, I believed a Tumblr post from people who claimed to have gone to his concerts, shared the info, and now I'm failing to fact check it. Thuateresa Queen says. Are you asking if it happened one time or every time? Seems like musical mishaps are bound to happen. He's been playing the song for like 40 years. Lex4 says. Fiddle strings. Golden Ramith says. I saw him live once. His bowstrings were shredding with horsehairs bouncing everywhere. Did it break all the way? I don't think it did. Did it look like a bouncing head of hair as he smoked the fiddle? Oh yes. So I don't doubt at all that he had concerts in which his bowstrings broke all the way through. Sprinklersmore 8471 says. Controversial opinion. The devil whooped Johnny and won that contest. Wagorki Rai says. I've been to his concerts and seen him switch fiddles, but the fiddle wasn't damaged beyond the strings. It's faster to swap instruments than to stop the concert and restring/retune mid-show. Wouldn't surprise me if he travels with multiple backups for exactly that reason. Browntoe98 says. I can imagine the bow being shredded. That's common with really vigorous plying. I suppose the fiddle strings break on occasion like most stringed instruments. Watching the two cellos a few years back, those guys go through a few bows per performance. Cosmonaut says. I saw him live at the local fair a few years back, and I DK about the fiddle being destroyed, but he was shredding the bow he used to play it. He went through a couple throughout the concert. Captain Kibba says. I DK, but I always thought the devil smoked Johnny in the studio version. My account Husband7 says. Funny to see this question asked after last night's episode of Last Week Tonight. Sparkyzel says. I saw him in boot camp as a Uzo thing. And he didn't break any strings. But he completely shredded his bow. and had an assistant with one right behind him, and he barely missed a beat. r/TooAfraidToAsk. Net Mysterious Altus says, if you take medicine when you aren't sick, what happens? Let's say you take NyQuil every night or something, would you never get a cold? Isahethod01 says, you would still get colds. NyQuil and all other medicines like that are just to help relieve symptoms, but has nothing to do with improving your immune system. And they don't make you better. Mostly they make you sleepy. Groundbreaking Key 199 says, the regular blast of Tylenol would ultimately hurt your liver. You would cease to notice the good effects, decongestion, etc. as your body acclimated to having it every night. You'd need more and more of it per night to get the same feeling, until finally it wouldn't work at all. Think about whiskey. If you drink whiskey when you're well, it makes you sick. But if you drink it when you're sick, you think it makes you well. Really, it just dulls your symptoms. This is what Harry Nilsson was thinking when he wrote that irritating song about the lime and the coconut. Stickyputs says, in the NyQuil example, no, it wouldn't prevent colds. Colds are viral. NyQuil does little to nothing to viruses. NyQuil merely mitigates symptoms. Daily acetaminophen would deplete L-glutathione, making you possibly more susceptible to liver problems. Other ingredients aren't really for daily use either, but I don't have ready commentary about them. Old Dealer 7002 says, NyQuil helps symptoms. It doesn't cure anything, and it sure as hell won't keep you from getting anything. Sanathabad says, you'd still get sick. You just wouldn't get the symptoms as bad. You might also get addicted, and odd depending on the type and dose. Sparkler Monster says, depends on what you're taking. Once I took those cold medicines that combine things against various symptoms like runny nose, cough, etc. One of the effects was to lower fever, but I didn't have one. So I was walking to work in short sleeves wondering why everyone was wearing jackets. A few hours later, once the effect wore off, I realized that the medicine must have lowered my already normal temperature, so as a result I got hot, just like someone with a fever will feel the chills. As for other medicines, basically you'll suffer through the side effects without enjoying the benefits. Also, many medicines aren't made to be taken every day, as side effects might be cumulative. There's a reason many medicines come with a warning telling you not to take it for more than X days. Some are toxic for the liver, others to the kidneys, others might affect your bones, etc. Medicine are approved because the illness they're curing is worse than the side effects. Without our illness to be cured, there's no benefit to take it. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.